it comes in the genre. Like SIU said it best, where he doesn't want people to die, but that is the direct result of the story that he's writing, is that people have to die, and from those deaths, there needs to be growth, and you're in a war, dog. Like, if nobody dies at the end of a war as significant as it's led up to be, like, it's kind of just, it plays down a little bit to the story, and I mean, that's not the same.
AOA, that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AOA, check me out. Look, clocked in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AOA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with the boys Isaiah.
Oh, hi, yo.
And Gavin.
Oh, what is the Gucciest of the shoesiest? Tis the question.
Tis the question. Today we're talking about Tower of God, of course, going over season 3, episodes, don't tell me, 49 to 58. Booyah! We only got 10 left after this, so you definitely don't want to miss our live streams, and you don't want to miss this live read-through because it was a lot of fun. These are some intense chapters for sure, and I can see why SIU's wrist is literally on fire every single time he's done working for the week. But the way to catch that is by going to our description. The link to the AOA Reacts channel is there, our reaction channel, where you can catch that with all our other live reactions. We also have our comment of the day today. Today comes from Nomad Vaughn, who is an actual homie, because Nomad is probably up for, 95 to 100% of these, like, every video we do. It's like he's watching it from start to finish, which is really awesome to know. So thank you very much. Our question was, who's your favorite redhead in the series? Because I know last week I was very happy that they were giving a lot of the redheads their due. And so he answered Hwaryun, OG, best redhead. Totally agree. He says, one of the best discussions, great questions. For sure, I actually really enjoyed our last discussion. There are a couple key standout ones that I remember. We've been doing this now for like a year at least, right? Yeah. Going through this story beat by beat. And we've had a couple discussions where I walked away from that and I'm like, wow, that was a really good conversation. And that hasn't been everyone. Obviously, not everyone could be a banger, but last week's was definitely one of them. I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I'm glad that you did too. And thank you for commenting your thoughts. Make sure you guys stay until the end, where we will be offering our question to you. And if you answer it, you might just get your comment shouted out in our next discussion video, which is actually only one left before we have to switch things up. So now is your chance. Definitely want to watch till the end of this one. We have 8 questions today, being that that's how many were posed. So we're like, why not just knock out 8 of them in this? So thank you to the 8 people that posed their questions here. Some of them are kind of split between 2 people because they asked a very similar question, it seems. There's multiple names, so we might shout out multiple names under the umbrella of one question. So thank you very much for that. But getting into the first question here without further ado, Gavin, take it away, my friend.
Oh, let's get started. So number 1, by Death to Boredom. Thank you so much for the question.
Jersey gang.
Jersey gang. How filthy are the Lo Po Bia, considering all that we've heard and seen from them so far in comparison is what we've seen of the other families? And are you sick of seeing them? LOL.
What?
Interesting question. So I guess just like broad, the Lo Po Bia family. I mean, I'm not sick of seeing them. I think that they tend to have some of the coolest. They bring like the coolest cards to the table, pretty much because they're animas, and you know they can have that like for example what we just read with the bird, like that was badass. And I always think back of like Rice Ball, like funny and amazing. Like I feel like a lot of the character, even the younger girl way back from season 1 with the fishies in the bowl, you know, it's like I don't know, for me it's just when I find another person from that family, they tend to they're interesting and they do some cool stuff. And although it may not be like highlighted as, you know, the craziest thing, you know, we see Bam and others, so it's like some of the power scaling might be off. I mean, in hindsight, I'm not saying that it is, but, you know, it might, for me, it just seems flashy and it's cool. So it doesn't, like, every time I see him, I'm not like, oh, another Pobido, like, you know, or not Pobido, not another Lo Po Bia. Like, that's just not on the forefront of my mind. I'm like, sweet, let me see more. Like, I want to see what else they bring to the table. So, yeah, no, I'm about it. Keep it up. Yeah, I'm not sick of it, though. I don't know if you guys are.
Yeah, I can't tell Death to Boredom if you or the one that's sick of seeing the Lo Po Bia family, by the way you framed that question. No, all jokes aside, though, I think they're sweet. I don't know if you're framing this in the light of beyond just their general aesthetic and all that kind of stuff, the fact that they keep on going against seemingly our protagonist, because it does seem like the Lo Po Bia family seems to be a blockade in the way because they are pretty loyal to Jahad, all things considered, at least from the info that we got. So if that's the way that the question is being framed, I'm not really sick of them because I figured that there were going to be to be honest, I thought there were going to be way more families that were jumping to Jahad's aid once this all started. It seems that they're maybe a little more fragmented than I initially thought across the 10 of them or whatever. But it seemed, there had to be at least one that was like die hard. Like, we came up with Jahad, that's our boy, and that's what we're rolling with this whole time. It seems like Lo Po Bia is that. Just in terms of their aesthetic, though, and all that, I love this family, like their abilities. I think it's my favorite one in terms of abilities wise, because each one has their standout attributes. You got your Haas with their overwhelming nuclear punches, which is really cool for sure. But they're stretching the imagination with that can only go so far because you just punch things harder, right? You got Khun's with just their gorgeous looks, and they have the ice and the lightning, which is really sweet. You see that kind of stuff, etc. I could go on. We got the fire, but the Lo Po Bia family, in my opinion, has the most room for creativity in it, being that they have not only just your typical animals that you would see on the Discovery Channel, but they have their own tower-specific creatures, like these big serpent-style things, and like whatever. It's like a whole different ecosystem. For a story that does so well with its world building, I feel like the animals and the creatures that inhabit it is just another part of building that really spectacular world. So I think the Lo Po Bia family has the advantage aesthetically of being able to bring out the best of the world in their fights, if that makes sense. If that all comes together.
I wonder if this is like more in frame because of just the amount of people that we see now, like Yasuracha and like the monkey pooping, like throwing person. Like I'm not gonna remember the name, sorry. Yeah. But it's like I wonder if it's because now it seems like we're always coming across someone, and I mean it's obvious when they're from the Lo Po Bia family because there's always some weird, crazy, like whimsical animal coming after it. So I wonder if that is almost like taking them out of the story in a sense. I'm kind of just going off.
Maybe I don't know. I just love the idea of having this animal to control or to be able to communicate with or whatever the case might be. Like I liked how this guy, I can't remember his name, that summons the hawk or the bird or whatever, gets to swap his consciousness into it at the last second and stuff like that. Like I think there's so many different ways that you could go creatively speaking beyond the world building and the animals, like I said, but just the way that they utilize the abilities with them and the fact that they get to fight for them. I think it's a really cool thing. Like the giant serpent that we saw too was really sweet. I like that. I think it's a very cool power system that they have in their family. So I like seeing them right now. I'm not sick of them yet. I'm sure at some point if they spam them too much, we will be, but that's where I am at the moment. What about you?
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I obviously don't like them as people because they're like, the Jahad loyalist or extremist. So that's not cool. But conceptually, they're really dope. Like you guys both pretty much went into it, so I'm not going to go too hard, but yeah, they're cool.
Fair enough. Nice. All right. Question 2 comes from Fluffy Mannequin 33. Fluffy asks, what did you think of Bomb's monologue at the end of episode 55? Sheesh. I don't know which monologue that was. At the end, he says, he says at the end. I didn't know the whole monologue. At the end, he says, just pray the people you wanted to protect are still by your side. What else do you think Bomb will have to go through or sacrifice to make this come true? And do you think there could be any significant character deaths by the end of this war? Oh, I think this is where he's on the ship and he stares at the guy, right? Okay, coming in. Okay, that kind of puts it into perspective here. Yeah, Bomb has a higher purpose, I guess, now, or a goal that he's trying to achieve, which makes him, in my opinion, that much more interesting. I think I had similar thoughts on Calivan was a topic of discussion last week, and one of the reasons I liked him is because this dude was a man with a plan. You didn't have to agree with his plan or his goal and what he was trying to achieve, but it definitely put things in perspective, and the choices that he made were in service of that goal. He has a code, right? And maybe it might not be quite as deep because Bomb's trying to save his master and he's trying to destroy the Jahad. But I think it's along a similar wavelength. I like that he has this mark, this bullseye that he's trying to hit now. So it definitely makes things a little more exciting now. It's not just like, oh, I just really like my friends and I'm going to climb the tower and save them, right? Like the whole Rachel thing has been kind of shelved now for the time being. So like that was a big thing in his side where it's like, I need these answers. I need to do that. And now that that's gone, it's like, how are we going to move on to this next objective with Bomb? So I like that he's there. With that being said, now that he has a highest objective, that means that saving everyone in the interim isn't necessarily the highest objective anymore, right? Because you have to have something at the pinnacle at your hierarchy now in terms of your values. So what do you value the most? Saving Jin Sung, destroying Jahad, saving your friends, even if that means you can't save Jin Sung, etc. So I think it pits a lot of things together and it puts the story in a much more realistic light in that sense that he can't save everyone, which has been ironically preached to him a lot of times beforehand. And maybe beforehand it was because saving my friends and making sure they're okay was his pinnacle, his top of his hierarchy. So it was like, what are you talking about? I'm going to save them because that's the thing that matters most. That's not necessarily the case anymore. I could be wrong on that. We'll see how the story plays out, right? But at least through Bomb's monologue here, it seems to be that he has, steeled himself and his resolve and understands that people in general will die and that he can't save absolutely everyone. And he's going to have to look at death straight in the face and smile back and say, okay, I'm ready to do this. Do I think that there could be any sacrifices or significant character deaths by the end of the war? I think that there should be for narrative purposes and to make the story that much more compelling. Personally, I think there has to be sacrifice with this, right? The fact that you've chosen to go down this path, the fact that you've made this your top priority does not mean that the universe is just going to reward you in that sense and say, okay, everything's going to go swimmingly now. Like we're all good here. It's going for those goals in spite of the fact that there's going to be hardship and struggle along the way. So I think it would be a little out of place for there to be no sacrifice involved for sure. In terms of what that sacrifice is, I don't know. We're going to have to see how that pans out. Do I think there could be a significant character death? I mean, that would be a sacrifice, right? So that could be definitely one of the routes they go. I kind of hope there is, and I don't say that as just like doom and gloom. I need somebody to die just for the sake of it. But this is a war we're talking about now, and it seems like, especially by the end of this now, this is like some Star Wars level galactic shit that we got going on where people are firing laser beams at each other. There's giant explosions in the air. There's debris flying around. There's spaceships. Like, it's getting pretty wild, right? And it's like now everything's coming to we got the branch heads and stuff like that coming down, and it's like there's only so much further we could go until we get to the literal pinnacle of power within the tower. And because we know that power scaling works in an exponential way, eventually if you're like 1 or whatever, you could probably wipe out the top 100, or top 1,000, etc. Like, you get my point. I think that it would be a little crazy for there not to be some sort of significant death or deaths by the end of this war. I don't know if it's going to happen within the time that we take to catch up to this, but going forward, I would assume that there's something, and I kind of hope that there is, to kind of highlight what this war means. That Bomb says, hey, I was the one who said we're going to come and attack these people. I got the people to come behind me. I went with Khun and Hwaryun's plan, etc. So I hope there is, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's cool that this monologue happens when it happens, which is like right before the real fighting starts, quote unquote, because it definitely highlights this place now that Bam is in, where right before it he sort of like sees the whole like sea of dead bodies, that were a result of some of the fighting that had already started, but instead of being like, oh, this wasn't my fault, like instead of like trying to sugarcoat or downplay it, he's like, no, this is important to see and like understand and comprehend, because this is the reality of war. This is the reality of the situation we're in. I started this fight. I knew that going to rescue Jin Sung means that like people are going to die. I think this line of like, just pray that the people you want to protect are still by your side indicates that like a lot of them, or, a few of them, most of them are probably going to have to make some pretty hard choices in this fight. Because it's not, like you said, this isn't going to be like, because they chose to oppose Jahad, they get everything that works out for them. So I wonder if, we've already seen it a little bit with Bam, just in him steeling himself to, I guess, sort of pull the trigger and start this fight. And even in people like Khun, who are willing to, work with somebody and benefit someone like White, just to have like that that many more allies on their side in this fight, that like we're gonna have to like walk in the gray area, right, between black and white. This isn't going to be like we get to make all the right choices and then we get all the rewards and everything is all fine and dandy. So in my mind, this is more of like, just pray that when all is said and done, when the last bullet's been fired, everybody that you set out to protect here is still standing next to you and is still willing to be, by your side by the end of this. Which is definitely, which I think is definitely the objective, because I think it's naive. It would be naive to assume, that all of them will, and that the original objective you set out to do will definitely happen, right? It could happen for sure. But I think like at the end of the day, it's like, all right, let's just hope that when the dust clears, everybody that I stood next to is still standing next to me.
What do you think?
Awesome. Yeah, no, great quote. I mean, for me, pretty much just what you guys were saying. I like how with him saying this, for me, makes it clear that he understands he's not able to save everyone, because he's pretty much saying, pray for the people you want to protect are still by your side. He's not saying, I'm going to make sure that these people are by my side, which has been his, shtick the entirety of the series, where it's, I am going to protect you. I'm going to be out there doing my best, like, up until we lost Dang Dang. And then that's the realization where he came out and said, okay, I can't protect everybody. I'm going to do my best. Don't get me wrong, but I can only beat myself so much for it, but to where it starts to really affect him mentally. And now with this, he is realizing like, hey, I'm not going to be able to protect everybody. That's very ignorant for me to think. So at the very least, I just pray and hope that at the end of this, I have as many people by my side that I wanted to protect, because I know I can't be the one to physically do it every single time. It's not reality. So for me, it's very, it's a breath of fresh air when he says something like that. Especially one of my favorite scenes was when he was in the warship and flying past those dead bodies, like Isaiah was saying, and him not hiding away from it, because that is all growth on his end, and you love to see it, and you need to see it, especially with the change he's trying to bring to the tower. It's going to come in a great loss, and he needs to start really strapping up his bootstraps and getting ready for that, because he's going to be the cause of it, and now he's starting to understand it. With that said, going into casualties and significant deaths of the war, with everything that I just said, in my eyes, there has to be, because it's just something that will solidify his mindset that he isn't going to continue growing until what he is saying is getting tested. And although it looks like, hey, now that he is saying I can't be there to protect people, it's easier said than living that line. So people need to die that he wanted to protect for him to be reinforced in that state, if it's true that, okay, now I can keep on moving forward after my prayers haven't been answered, in his quote, and people who he wanted to protect die, if that makes sense. So it's literally like the duality of the situation that we're in, and I want that to test his psyche, because at the end of the day, if it's not tested now, it has to be in the future, because it comes in the genre. Like SIU said it best, where he doesn't want people to die, but that is the direct result of the story that he's writing, is that people have to die, and from those deaths, there needs to be growth, and you're in a war, dog. Like, if nobody dies at the end of a war as significant as it's led up to be, like, it's kind of just, it plays down a little bit to the story. And I mean, that's not to say, like, everybody can say what they want about death and not wanting their favorite characters dying. I don't want my favorite characters to die either, but it does bring a lot of growth when it's done correctly. I'm not just saying ice people left and right just to do it. Like, it has to have, like, means to that end and then serve a greater purpose, which I think will do, in Bam's case specifically, quite well and do justice. So, yes. Yep.
All right. Question number 3 comes to us from Jail Seguiner. Sorry if I butchered that. And Pastafarian.
Sorry. I just clicked now what their username was, because I wasn't reading it as Pastafarian. And
yeah.
I thought that was freaking hilarious. So it's creative. Oh, shit.
Anyway,
I feel like you got a little bit way too happy for that one.
Oh, God. It's the little things, dude.
It's the little things.
With Hwaryun asking Bam to do something to get the Elder to join the Nest battle, her knowing Grace Marchia Luslik was going to ask the Elders to participate in the oncoming war, and her saying that she owed him one while talking with Luslik, as well as her being able to guarantee Luslik that they'd win the Nest battle, it seems like Hwaryun is notably connected to Grace Luslik. Additionally, her being shown to directly talk to Elder Sophia, but not to take orders from her, reframes Evan's hypothesis that the Elders were behind her actions, Finally, way back when Hwaryun met Khun after the hand of Arlene during season 2, chapter 54, she said that she was helping Fug at the moment. TLDR, what the actual heck do you think Hwaryun's place is in Fug? Also, what do you think y'all? What do y'all think of her being able to rip off her sleeves with Endorsi gone? Okay, so a lot of this is just info. The TLDR here. What do I think Hwaryun's actual place in Fug is? I don't know. With all this information, it is definitely. So I, for a long time, haven't really. I never really even considered the possibility that Hwaryun doesn't have this like permanent high tier place in Fug, like, you know, just from the way she's talked and things that have happened and the sides that she's seemingly been aligned with. I've always been like, oh, okay, Hwaryun is like, you know, some pinnacle in Fug. You know, maybe it's not like obviously elder status, or it's not, you know, maybe she's not like one of the main people, but that she's like one of their main informants, right? Or that she's, you know, she's sort of a big deal in Fug, and she might be a big deal to Fug, but I actually don't even know now, especially with like just the chapters we've gotten with her, if it's even safe to say that she's like definitely permanently a part of Fug. Because again, especially this line that these guys point out, which is her telling Khun that like, yeah, for the moment she's working with Fug. Well, okay, that implies that she's not planning on like staying with Fug forever. And so I wonder if she really is, and especially now, I think like a lot of where Hwaryun is at mentally is been like reinforced by all the stuff that happened at the last station with Bam. I think we might finally be seeing, which is something I've been saying since we've met her, like some Hwaryun take agency in like what she wants in her decisions, and like not to say that she's abandoning her mission or her goal here, but I kind of finally feel like she's acting a little bit more for the goals that she wants, and like that goal can still be to, you know, get Bam, you know, for Bam to get to the top of the tower or whatever. But at first, I guess what I'm saying is at first I thought like Hwaryun was like, oh, I need to get Bam to become the new king of the tower or whatever, because like that's what Fug wants. He's their god. And like she still, you know, she uses like words like that still, but like it feels more like Hwaryun, like by herself, wants Bam to get to the top of the tower, but like it has nothing to do with Fug anymore, right? Now it seems a little bit more personal. It seems a little bit more like, you know, I don't know. It just feels a little bit more like she's got her own agenda, and that maybe she's been aligning with Fug because she needs to either have contact with or get something from some of the higher ups, like these elders, Lusalek, etc., Sophia, which would explain, you know, that coupled with just how useful she's been and how useful her abilities are, would tell me that like that's sort of why Fug has not kept her around, but like that's why that they've aligned themselves with her for so long, and that's why she has this sort of contact, like she can just call up Sophia like on her pocket. But yeah.
What do you think?
So it's going to be weird. I actually think almost the complete opposite. And so my reasoning behind this is I actually think she's a lot higher in Fug.
I thought you were going to say hotter.
Oh, hotter than Fug. No, I think she's a lot higher in the chain of command in Fug than any of us realize. And with that, I feel like it comes. So what she had said to Khun in terms of helping Fug at the moment, she is been someone who doesn't display all of her cards, especially with someone like Khun. And even if she didn't know anything of him, I feel like there's no reason why she would have to say something as in like everything we like. When they first met Khun, they weren't about Fug. They hated it. So it's like, you know, I feel like she would say something where it's like, oh, I'm helping Fug at the moment, but why would she say like, oh, I'm like grossly invested in Fug and I'm so high up? But I feel like it comes with the relationship of now we find out she's talking to elders of Fug like Sophia and isn't following their orders per se, and is also talking to Lusalek, who is very like, what is he, the president of Fug or whatever? Like he's super high up there. I don't even know, but it has been alluded to that Lusalek is super high up there, and the fact that she's able to have conversations with him, like for me, that just rings like bells, sure and true. And that, you know, if she was that loosely nested with them, they wouldn't have that line of communication unless there was some respect that is built of them or knowledge or a relationship prior to a lot of this happening. So for me, it more aligns in she is very high up the food chain, and she has been running errands pretty much since day one, or aligning or trying to get the ball rolling since day one. And I feel like my kind of the way my head forms around it, it kind of makes sense with the way her personality is being portrayed now compared to when we first met her. Because when we first meet Hwaryun, she was like a cold-hearted like B-word, and just doing like what she needs to do, what she thinks that needs to be done, and it's for Fug, it's for Bam being the god, blah blah blah. She's really trying to get the ball rolling, and she doesn't care. It's to take no prisoners, kill any friends, we're going. And then now we see as the plan, as all of this time has passed and they're getting further along her initial goal, which is, taking out Jahad and getting all these things fulfilled, they are getting completed. They are getting done. Everything that she wanted, that she was stressing out so much about, which I think was coming from the higher-ups of Fug, pretty much saying, like, if I'm Hwaryun, if I can't get this going now, then Lusek and all these other people, then they're really not going to be helping us, and they're not going to throw any eggs in Bam's basket. So, like, I need to force this to happen, because if not, we're screwed, and nobody from Fug is going to back him. Now, fast forward, where we're at now, the elders are starting to look at Bam and accept him and realize, and for her, after going through all of these years, dealing with that stress, having to worry about every move, every interaction that these people are coming into, now that it's coming to fruition and she sees Bam living up to the expectation that she wants, it's almost like a weight off of her shoulders, because now we see her and she almost seems happier. She's not as stressed. She's not as like torn off. And you can say, yes, that's because Bam changed her expectations a little bit while ago with, the whole future blending, like not being able to see into his future. And now she like understands that. For me, I feel like it's less pressure alleviated off her shoulders. Now she's seeing what Bam has become. Elders are starting to, sniff in his direction and back him. And everything's falling into, what her plan initially was, and it's going good. It's going well. So that, is allowing her to kind of reach into her real personality, which isn't stress-ridden. And that's how I view it. I could be completely wrong, but I do think that she's higher up, had a lot of stress, now is overcoming these things. A lot of the pressure is being lifted off. Obviously, there's still a plan that needs to get done, but, everything's kind of working out for her. So it's relief. That is my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Her with her sleeves off was a sight to behold.
Of course.
And I'm very happy about it. And listen, everybody can have Dorsey for as much as they want. And I got no qualms with Dorsey. She's beautiful and all that. But like, honestly, dude, I'm happy to see Hwaryun in a room rocking a sleeveless, matching the drip with Bomb. I thought that was awesome how they paired up. Those pants that she had too.
It's true.
It was like, yeah, I was all about it, man. I was so about it. And we need more of that. And
he's like, I'm done. That's
I'm going to be upset because I know that's probably not going to happen. But, I'll enjoy what I had.
Kick rocks in Dorsey.
When I had it. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, addressing the more pertinent question here, or is it? What is their actual place in Fug? Whew, I don't know for certain, but I guess if I was just throwing an idea out there, I think Hwaryun has a personal relationship with Lusek. Beyond, it's not just like business, right? It's like, it's not that she's just, okay, she's very high ranked, although she definitely has pull, or she's like X rank, or like this is what she's doing. I think, that there is a more personalized thing going on between them. Really, my only evidence to back that up is the conversation that we had, that she has a direct line to Lusek, which seems like not everyone just gets Lusek's phone number to call him or her when shit's going down, or to ask for a favor. Seems like kind of a big thing, right? And the fact that she says, I owe you one, is definitely something indicative of what a friend would say to someone, or someone in like a more of a casual acquaintance. If you're like, subordinate number 10, like which number 10 you're assigned here, and it's like you somehow know Lusek and you're like kind of ranking command thing, I would assume it would be a little bit more professional in that sense. And it's like if you're calling a friend over the phone, it's like, yo, can you help me move? It'll be worth your while, whatever, like I owe you one. Just that language to me makes it seem like Hwaryun has this history with them, and that makes her very old, like super old. And I know everyone's old in this damn tower because time is just all over the place, but like really old, like since OG. And which is interesting, which means that we always knew it, but that she knows like a lot. But I think I think she knows even more than I initially thought that she may have known. That being said, I don't know if she like ranks high per se or ranks at all. Like, I think there's this weird in between, like I said, to support my theory that I think there's an actual personal relationship there. I don't think it's like Hwaryun, like you're going to get pulled into the ranks and like this is your thing here. I think that this might be something where Lusek literally told Hwaryun, like, you're the one I could trust to go to be Bomb's guide, because I know that you're in on whatever's going on. Like, we have history here. So because the other reason I say that is because she talks to who else? The Elder Sophia, but does not take orders from her. She's like, okay, I'll do what I want. And it's like, beyond Elder, I would assume the next ranking thing, the higher ranking thing, and the only higher ranking thing would be Lusek, him or herself.
You know what? So not to cut you off, but I'm in terms of ranking, like I think it comes with the position of being a guide, and I'm wondering if you know how a guide is always paired with the person, if maybe even Lusek, like she was the original guide to him. And, you know, it's something where it's like she's not singing and praising the Fug song, but, you know, she does have personal stakes in it. But I'm wondering if that's like the stake where she served him and they're very close. And something, you know, earlier, way behind the scenes when Band came in, it was something where he he allowed her to almost like see Bam at that time to like curate him into something else. Like, I don't think it's more of like a power, like, oh, she is the strongest one in Fug or a top strong one. Like, I think it comes naturally as the fact that she's a guide and a damn good one. And that is what ties her to the higher ups up there and gives her that power. But yeah, I'm wondering if that's the personal relationship we're talking about, is she was originally the guide for him. And then, you know, because it's like Evan. It's not like you don't have to stay with Yuri for the rest of your existence. Like, you can like branch out, you know? Sense. So that I'm actually that raises a good
definitely
question.
To me supports the claim that she knows a lot.
Oh yeah.
Not just that she's a guide and she has all of that supernatural crap going on, but that she, along with Lusek, probably knows a similar amount to Lusek, even more potentially than the elders themselves, in terms of what the end game is here, what's being hidden, etc., and is kind of just guiding Bomb along the path that he needs to go, or that she thinks he needs to go, or whatever, but knows a lot of the backstory. Like, I think she was there from the beginning and probably could have told Bomb everything at almost any point, like what she knew. And I think she's withholding a lot of info there. That might be a stretch, but I think that she knows a lot. It just would make sense if you're buddy with Lusek to kind of be in on what's going on. So I don't know if her and Lusek's plan is that they kind of not radicalize, but, you know, view these things in a very religious occult sense, where Bomb is a god and this is the prophecy. I don't know if Lusek like really, really believes that, or kind of just utilizes that to kind of conform all of the subordinates and make them unified under one umbrella, or if they genuinely think it's like the prophecy and a god, and they view it as that. And Hwaryun, like, you know, literally thinks Bomb is a god, right? In that sense. I don't know, man. I think there's like a big brain scheme thing going on top of whatever the hell's going on here. Anyway, that's all I got.
All right. So question number 4 by W. Phil. Back in the Dollar Show. Wow. That, oh, man. When Bam was fighting Joaquin, Bam says that nobody should be sacrificed for Joaquin. And now that's exactly what Khun did. What do you think will be Bam's reaction? Will he be okay with that? Will he forgive Khun? Now, this is a very good question, and my honest answer is I don't know. It really depends, in my eyes, on what Bam's mindset is, because it almost seems like, not that he's reformed in a sense, but he's grown a lot. Like, he understands, you know, in war people are going to die, and that there's, you know, there's responses that happen to certain actions that he puts forward, and those responses are going to be death, and people are going to die, and bad things are going to happen. So with that said, a past Bam would not be okay with this and probably not forgive Khun. A Bam who kind of realizes like the casualty of war scenario, I could see possibly maybe not being happy about it per se, but understanding why Khun did these things in terms of powering up White, because they need a power force like White, because let's be real, we have Caliban, we have a whole squadron of Jahad's army coming after us. Like, we're going to need that firepower, and like the only way he's going to be feasible is through the souls of people. Like, we already know that's just White's thing. So I would like to say that Bam, although not happy, would understand it, but I also don't think it's the best scenario, and I can't help the devil on my shoulder harps back from a discussion way prior where my personal opinion is that their relationship isn't going to be all like peaches and strawberries for the entirety of this story. I think that there is going to be an obstacle thrown in there that divides them eventually, and I do also see how this can be said obstacle that honestly just tears them apart in a sense, or at least is like the beginning steps to do so, like more for story purposes in terms of just not him and Khun just running up to the tower, you know? Like if there was a break in their relationship somewhere, this could be, you know, the start of it or a route to it that will compound on itself and then cause a future divide in their relationship. Again, I don't want this to happen at all, but I do feel like it's almost indicative of the story to just them not being just like this idolized version of a relationship of two people. Like, I don't know. I feel like there just has to be a problem in there some way, and this can be something that causes a problem. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what Bomb's reaction is going to be. I don't know how hard he's going in on this monologue, I guess is my point.
That's the thing.
Where he's like, that's it. I'm reformed. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it. You do whatever you want. Yeah. Excuse my French. Like, do whatever you want. I said I'm saving Jin Sung. I don't care what the hell happens, right? If he's like really in that boat, then maybe he's like, Khun, you did what you had to. I'm all hard ass now. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think Bomb, maybe to kind of refer back to that monologue, was a little bit more talk, but we'll see in terms of that. Because my thing is like, when the souls get taken, I'm pretty sure they almost like live on in a weird sense, but almost contained and
like
trapped.
Exist. Yeah,
which is like really messed up when you think about it. It's like literally, it's worse in my opinion than killing someone and just leaving them there, because you're now subjecting them to a literal torment and hell for eternity until you release them. If they even can be, like there's a whole weird moral complication with that. So I actually think in a weird sense, it's actually even worse. Now, the question is means to an end, right? Like, do we, you know, is that cool because we're trying to topple the bad guy? I don't know. That's for everyone to decide individually. I'm a little shaky on it because my thought process is that if you're trying to beat bad guy because he's done bad things, but you wind up doing equally as bad things in order to beat bad guy, did you really beat bad guy? You know what I mean? Are you not similar in that regard? I think that's a whole can of worms. That's my personal opinion on the whole thing. But to be fair, they need white, and this is the route that's being chosen. I think the bigger thing here is Khun doing it behind Bomb's back, and what Bomb's reaction to that specifically would be that he did not tell him that he did something like that. I think that he will forgive Khun. I don't think that the weight of what Khun is doing, I don't know. I think that most people, if Khun was like, okay, I have Rack here, and Rack has to be sacrificed to White in order to do this, or like some wild example, right? And then Bomb finds out that it's like, dude, I had to sacrifice Rack because like we needed White to do this thing. Bomb might be like pretty freaking pissed, right? Because he's like, dude, that's like one of our homies. You done this. When it's like kind of Soldier 1, Soldier 2 rando, there's not as much of like a personal connection to that, and I feel like that can be a lot of times how people operate. Like it doesn't really register, and they don't have the time to like feel bad for everyone there. So he might look at it in a different sense, that it's like, okay, these were our enemies. Like these are things that had to happen. But I don't know. Khun's doing some like scheming thing. And I think this also just adds to the idea that whether it be Khun or some of the people on our squad or whatever, everyone in this story, or mostly everyone in this story, is doing some sort of shady, morally debatable background shit that's going on. So I think that a lot of people need to, you know, really kind of take a look in the mirror sometimes when it's like we condemn X person for X thing and then X person we don't for another thing. Like that's just kind of how it is, you know, and it's okay because it's like we like who we like in that regard. So I think that I think that Bomb's going to be fine with it, I guess is a long-winded way of saying. But
do you think it would be different? Because I know commenters were saying that these people were already dead and they were just collecting their souls. Although it doesn't do it any more justice because you're taking their souls hostage.
Yeah.
And Bam has lived with that power and hated it quite literally when he felt the souls inside of him, like almost like in his mind, he like it drove him almost crazy. Like he was not about it.
Yeah,
so
that's my
the
thing.
Other thing where if he's not killing them, like give me your souls, like if they're more like collecting them, does that put it in a different light?
That's basically what I was trying to say. Yeah, is that maybe not great, but I was trying to get to that point where it's like I guess sometimes there are levels where it's like, you know, you're walking down the street, right? And you see there's a little kid and he falls in a lake and he starts drowning. You're on your way to do whatever, right? Go to work or something. And it's like, what do? You look at that scenario, and I would hope or think that a lot of people, you know, take off their shoes, run in the lake, and go and save the kid, right? But then you think of somewhere in some far off country of some child that you know is, you know, going through some really tough time. They are dying in some sense. And it says, okay, if you donate, right, your money to go towards this cause, you could potentially do that. And then it seems to be a lot of people, like they don't even think of that. They think of it differently. And they're like, well, you know what I mean? It's one thing or the other. I think that in like a fractured analogy is kind of what I'm trying to say, where it's like, are there levels to it where Bomb's like, well, they're already dead, so like it's all good, we just kind of extracted them? Or he's like, I already had this plan, like we had to go through with it? Or is he more pissed at the principal that Khun just kind of did that behind his back, and he's like, bro, these are people's souls that you're messing with here, like what's the deal with that? Why are you siding with White? Or if it's like that aside, not even the whole soul thing, being like, why are you powering White up? You know what I mean? Like, we don't need it. I don't know. There's a lot of questions. What do you think?
I don't really think he's gonna have a problem with Khun in regards to what he did, but just specifically that he's going behind Bam's back to do it. Because I think one of the foundations of their relationship has always been a mutual level of trust. And actually, the next question on here more or less is talking about the same thing. So this whole Khun, you know, deal with the devil stuff. This idea that Khun, if need be, would be willing to go behind Bam's back but never stab it, right? So there, again, in the talk of like, how far is too far? I think Bam, quite frankly, is just in a place now where he understands that, like, the stance of, like, don't do wrong things to anybody because wrong things are bad is quite literally a luxury we don't have anymore. We're in a war, and, like, people are going to die. Some messed up shit's going to happen to some really good people, and, like, to think that you can control that and to think that, like, nobody else can do any of that to anybody, I don't think Bam is in that mind. I don't think he's going to be upset with Khun off of like the literal stuff that he's doing, A, because he's not going out there and murdering these people to get the souls, but B, also because I think it would be a little too naive of Bam to put that on Khun. However, I do think there will definitely be a talk about the fact that if Bam specifically stated he didn't want this to happen this way, and Khun then went ahead and did it anyway, because we had this talk with way back with the whole Rachel thing, right? Where it was like, oh, now Khun is on a mission to kill Rachel, but Bam doesn't want Rachel to get killed, but Khun is going to kill her anyway. And it's like, okay, so is Khun going to go behind Bam's back to do that? Is that going to be a whole topic of debate or point of contention for the relationship? And yeah, I definitely think it'll be a point of contention. It might even cause some grief. I do ultimately think, though, that they'll probably, forgive each other or make up and resolve that. But I don't know. I think it is tough in these kinds of circumstances because it's like, yeah, I'm sure one of the last people that Bam wants to get stronger is White. But it's like we don't get to the place where we can like talk about and or handle White if we don't make it out of this place alive. Like this fight is sort of the devil that's right in front of us, and White is like a devil that is, I don't necessarily know how far off he is in terms of like being the main threat or like, pivotal. He's now going attacking Bam, but all we do know is that right now he's not the devil in front of us. He's not the immediate objective. And again, the way Khun was talking, this is like the way that he's learned to fight, because it's the way that people fight in this tower, through coercion, manipulation, tactics, understanding how to and when to employ things for people, build alliances, burn bridges. That's what he knows. And again, on the surface, in terms of war tactics, like this is not a bad idea. White is a strong person, and if you can find a way to ally yourself with him to get through this war, yes, there's a lot of moral implications of like how to get White stronger, but it's like if we don't make it through this fight, everybody's dying, and then that's it. So I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like it's tough to condemn Khun in the facet of like, oh, you shouldn't do this because it's wrong, and it's like I feel like we're a little far past it's simply wrong or right. Again, I do think there's contention and conversation to be brought up around the going behind Bam's back thing, but in terms of like, you shouldn't do this because it's not right, it's like I kind of feel like we're just too far past it, right or wrong being the only way that you can make a decision.
Yeah, I also see a route of introspection on Bam's end in terms of not necessarily taking it out on Khun, but pretty much saying, I am the start of what's going on, and the fact that my actions led Khun to do this for us to win this fight, he almost shoulders the blame on himself and doesn't put it on Khun because he is also the type of character to do that, and especially with how he's talking all philosophically in the manner that he has in terms of keeping his eyes open in that, again, with those dead bodies floating by him and like, I can't hide from this anymore. Like, I'm responsible for this and I need to accept that. I mean, I feel like this would also fall under that category in terms of it wouldn't have happened if, this war wouldn't have started. So, it's my fault in a sense and not necessarily Khun's. Again, that's just more of a side thought, but, it's a possibility. Bam is kind of a wild card when it comes to, growth and really what he's thinking at a certain moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just to go in a little more because we kind of combined two questions, which only makes sense in this question 5. Was Sad Sparkle, so shout out there. Yeah, this is I look at the like, so I'm struggling a little with or just kind of thinking more about it. I read this comment somewhere and it says Khun may go behind Bomb's back, but he'll never stab it, only help. And I can't help but think sometimes that a lot of that can be maybe conjured up in like a subjective sense. So it's like, I guess, what is it somebody considers stabbing it, right? Like saying, doing something to actively harm Bomb, etc. Is there a world where stabbing Bomb in the back is betraying Bomb's trust, right? In the sense that it's like, oh, well, I was only trying to help. And Bomb is like, well, I never asked you to help, right? And now you've done something that's hurt, you've hurt people or you've done some irreparable damage and, all in the sake of helping me, that doesn't absolve you of that. And I just kind of wanted to pose that as a question to anyone that felt like expounding upon their thoughts on that. Just because somebody has the best intentions, does doing it behind your back in a secretive fashion betraying your trust in the sense that they're not going to tell you for whatever reason they think this is the best course of action. Do you think that's excusable? If you do, when is it excusable? Is it always excusable so long as their motive is to help you? Do you consider it stabbing in the back because of the principle of it, that you betrayed the trust, not necessarily the specific action that was taken? I'm curious to know that because I will say that before you were saying that a lot of what Khun and Bomb's friendship has been built on is trust. And I can't help but think since the beginning of this story that this isn't the first time that Khun has done something like this. He's actually gone behind Bomb's back, quote unquote, quite frequently, enacting some sort of plan, at least in earlier season 2 and stuff like that, in order to help Bomb, right? At least that was the chief motive behind Khun's actions, he says, right? And so this isn't the first time that something like that's happened, and Bomb hasn't always gotten the 411 on what Khun's plans were. He didn't come and tell them after the fact, or he never knew that Khun went behind, and sometime it just worked out, right? So I don't know, I'm curious. This seems to be a trend that has been going on, and it's something that Khun is doing again now, definitely on a larger scale. And it seems that, he's kind of gotten out scot-free on that. I'm wondering if that does come to a head now. The more I'm looking at these questions, and if Bomb is like, dude, what's the deal? And Bomb starts to, catch on to that more, that Khun keeps on going behind and saying, like, I'm going to do this. It's for your own good type thing. Like, this is what we need to do, et cetera. Because we have had small scuffles. I think it was one in particular, and it was like the beginning of this season when Bomb got the whole glow up with the hair and all that kind of stuff. And he met Khun again for the first time. And they had like one of their first arguments on something like that. And it was one of the first time that Khun didn't just go behind his back and do something anyway. It was like, this is what I'm going to come to you and I'm going to tell you what I want to do. And there was actually disagreement on it, and they had to come to a compromise. But does Bomb feel slighted at the fact that Khun forewent that again, and has kind of reverted back to this?
I think the main point that matters is sort of the scale and the stakes of the situation.
Okay.
Because there have been times, where Khun has, enacted some plan that he either didn't tell Bomb about, or, went behind Bomb's back, so to speak. But I don't really. I think it matters depending on on the circumstance, right? What it is you're willing to do behind said person's back. Because if it's like, yeah, I lied to this person and told them to do something, or I got this person to fight this person, it's like, again, I always try to keep my mind. I think this is something that I've been trying to do the more I read the story is like keep my mind frame in the mindset of somebody that's like lives in this tower, right? Like that's pretty normal behavior, and it's not something that really like is worth condemning. But like, you know, again, we get up to a circumstance like now where it's like you are not only actively capturing other people's souls, but you're giving them to, of all people, white. That I could see being like, it's like, okay, that's not like a, you know, throwing a pebble in a pond. Like that's a big deal. So it's like when your decision that you're making that is going behind said person's back has the potential to cause ripple effects that could you know, go from ripples to literal like tidal waves. That's like, you know, when the scale sort of exceeds that ratio, that's when I think it's a problem. Because I think the whole idea behind this, like I'd be willing to go behind your back, never stab it, only help, is just sort of this idea that like, you know, sure, while you could do something terrible with good intentions, that the difference is if you are making a decision that's going to require you to go behind X person's back, and that decision is to harm them for you to get, like, let's take something like Rachel would do, right? If you're making a decision where you're lying or manipulating somebody, and that decision is to ultimately put either yourself ahead of them or, you know, tear them down a peg or hurt them or harm them or whatever, like that's, at least to me, that's backstabbing.
So then that's the thing. For me, it comes to perception. So, for example, I actually aligned with Ian in this in terms of there's stabbing somebody in the back in terms of betrayal, and I do think that there's a possibility of stabbing somebody in the back with the best intentions. So, for example, to just do an analogy, say I like a girl. I have a crush on a girl, okay? Ian, I tell you, my best friend, dude, Sandra, I have a huge crush on her. I really like her. I don't know how to go about it. Maybe one day I'll tell her I have said crush, okay? A couple days go by, you talk to Sandra and say, hey, you know, Gavin has a crush on you. You know, do you have a crush on him? Oh, you do have a crush on him? Oh, like maybe. So you're going out with the best intentions, trying to get information per se. You come back later, hey, I talked to Sandra, you know, about your crush. You know, she actually really likes you, you know, blah, 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 blah. My perception is I confided this in you. You went more or less behind my back and talked to her about it with the best intentions to helping me out and being a wingman. However, I can still perceive it as you stabbed me in the back. I gave you said information and you went against kind of what I thought you were going to do. And I do feel like that can apply in this situation where although Khun may not be doing it with negative intentions to hurt Bam in a sense, however, it really depends on how he perceives the situation in terms of it may not be the word. It may be justified in terms of this is a war, XY thing is happening, we need to do this. But from Bam's perspective, it can be completely different, even with the best intentions, that he can perceive it as being stabbed in the back, although it may not be meant that way. And I feel like it's always easier looking at it, you know, with the glass globe, analyzing the whole situation. But when it comes down to, you know, personal perspective, it can vary on situationally with everything that has happened. And for everything that has happened in their relationship with Khun doing stuff like this, it has never been a big problem, but there could be a scenario where it does become a problem, even if it may not seem like it may seem like the most trivial thing to, you know, get worked up over, but it is still a possibility at the end of the day. I wonder
if, like, because in that, even in like that metaphor, and if you relate it back to the Bam Khun thing, the key there is like, if you had told him specifically not to talk to this girl or say anything, and then he went ahead and did that anyway, that, like, to me, like, that's where the backstabbing happens.
Wait, what? Repeat that?
Like, in your metaphor, in your analogy here, you're like, oh, you got a crush, you told Ian about the crush, and then Ian goes to talk to the girl and is like, oh, hey, I went and talked to her and turns out like she might kind of like you too. If before that you had specifically told him like, hey, I'm telling you this, like, don't talk to her, don't tell her anything about this, but like, I'm just confiding in you, and then he went ahead and did that thing, like, that to me is where the backstabbing happens, where it's like, if you don't preface that, there's really, like, him going to talk to her isn't really going, like, that's not doing anything.
I feel like hang on. I feel like there's a duality to that, the way I see it though, and I feel like there's almost like an unwritten rule in the sense that me in that scenario, to take Gavin's analogy again, if I'm Gavin's friend, I also think that there's this responsibility that lies on me.
Correct.
If Gavin didn't tell me explicitly, don't tell anyone, for me to ask, do you want me to tell her that? Are you saying this to me because you're implying that you would like me to go and help you with this plan? And I think a lot of the issue that I see with it is not necessarily the actions that Khun takes each time or whatever. It's actually deeper than that. It's like the root. It's the thing that Khun goes to every time, like the automatic habit. Out of habit, I'm not going to tell Bomb what it is I'm doing. I'm just going to go do it because I know I'm smart enough. I know that this is probably going to pan out. I know this is for his best interest, and I'm going to go there. And it's a lot of times, I think the principle of it, of him not opting for that decision first a lot of times and him automatically opting for the former position is where I think he could really shoot himself in the foot when it comes to that. And I think that's a character flaw in terms of their relationship and just honestly in general, if you have like a really close friend, to do that. And I think that was the question that I was trying to bring up, like where do you lie on that? Because I actually think the more I heard your guys' answers and I read these two questions again, the more that I was thinking about that, and I was like, this is actually a very interesting dilemma. You know what I mean? Because this story, so many times, we've had so many discussions on this at this point, like shit, man, brings up a lot of scenarios. I'm not saying anyone's doing that here. I'm saying this is a general broad thing where like X character will do a thing and everyone's like, boo, you know what I mean? Like, get out of here. And then another character will do something that maybe isn't the same thing, but is like, along a similar path. And it's like, oh, dude, classic X person, classic whoever, like, God, we love that person, right? And so I just think, or like, if there's a certain character flaw within a character that we all like and stuff like that, there are a lot of people, we're guilty of it on a personal level, and there are a lot of people in the fandom that will kind of put on blinders when it comes to those sorts of things. So I like these sorts of questions and this dialogue that gets a little bit to a deeper root here and kind of analyzing people as as like not a blank slate. I'm trying to look for the word, but like taking the bias out of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say in like a sugar-coated way here. So I don't know. I found that pretty interesting, and I'm curious to know what you guys think on that. If there's a situation where maybe that has happened to you, where a friend has gone behind your back with the best intentions, but you were upset at just the principle that they went behind your back, even if it turned out well, or if you were forgiving of it because the circumstance was good, if you would have been less forgiving if it was bad, etc. I think this is an interesting thing that probably comes up in life more than you'd realize. So I think it's an interesting question all around. Do you guys have any other thoughts on this one?
No, I'm
good questions, both of you. Thank you, W. Phil and Sad Sparkles, for your questions. We appreciate it. Okay, I think I have the next. No, you do. You have the next one, right? Yeah.
Question 6 also comes to us from Jail.
I lied. I think I'll do the next one. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of blended.
We blended a bunch. And I'm like, I don't know whose turn it is.
Comes to us from Jail Siegel and Pastafarian. The question is, Adori Jahad is a name that has been thrown around a lot recently. Just from what little impression there is, what are your thoughts on her? She's probably evil. She's probably about as close to evil as you can get. I mean, when we're talking about people like Maschenny, who actually I would exclude, because Maschenny actually seems like a chaotic neutral. The more that we hear her talk and the more that we learn about, what it is she's doing and like sort of why she's doing it. I don't like, and that's not to say that that's not a defense, because a chaotic neutral is not good. If we're talking about the scale specifically here, but I think Adori is like a chaotic bad. Like I think she is probably she's evil, and I think a little probably sadistic and but I think she's evil with a purpose, right? She's like, I am Jahad's commander in chief. Like that title, that position comes with a certain level of responsibility, comes with a certain level of expectation, and it comes with a certain level of understanding that I need to be ready, willing, and able to carry his dream, his wants, his whims, his needs, like whenever possible, at all times. I need to be like a shining example of like somebody that Jahad would side with, right? And I don't know whether that's born out of, wherever her family lineage is, like maybe how much she even knows Jahad, maybe even before being a king. I don't know. We don't, like the question says, we have basically very little to go off of. But just from where she stands, her position, the things that we've heard her, indirectly say, or the orders that people have been given by her. She seems like a bitch, quite frankly. She seems like somebody who is, take no prisoner. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm the commander in chief of this army for a reason. Jahad asked for results, and I need to be the kind of person that can deliver results. And that requires a certain sort of mental fortitude and somebody that can take commands and dish them out without a shred of sympathy.
What do you think, Gavin?
I don't. It's a weird character because obviously we don't know. We haven't even seen him, like, quite literally. So I don't want to necessarily throw her name through the mud, because until I get a full perspective of her. But I guess from what I can say is that obviously not a pushover. Has been touted that she's a prodigy, similar to Bam in that respect, and that super powerful. And just the fact that she is where she is in Jahad's army and the commander-in-chief or what have you, yeah, definitely not someone to be messed with. And, I toy with the thought of evil percent. I don't know, because it's like, it's strange when you bring Jahad in the mix in, like, pure evil, because I do think that there's some gray area in that, like, fighting for a cause that isn't a good one compared to being evil, for me, are kind of on two different planes that can overlap, and I wonder if she does overlap in some sort of area in terms of how, like, ruthless and cutthroat she is. And I guess in some sense you'd kind of have to be as high as she is in that army. So I guess I'm not going to sit here and say that she is an evil character. Very well could be. Definitely has to be hardcore and a badass by any stretch of the term to be in the position that she's at. So, yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But from all I know, prodigy, super strong, not a pushover, and probably going to make me want to poop my pants when I see her. So, yeah, that's what I got to say.
I'm just waiting to see how drop dead gorgeous she is when we see her, because this seems to be like Giga Princess. Like, she seems to be top dog, literally. So, like, she's got to be stacked, right? That's my hope. Oh, man,
How many princesses did they say there were?
13, right?
13
Pretty sure there's one to fill out each weapon for the 13-month series.
So is there something you said then that there's like 13 princesses and then like a 14th, which would be the head? Or is that like there's 13 princesses, but
like princesses of Jahad?
They've never said 14.
like
I think there's a lot more, because then you have like Anak and Dorsey. Like, are you just saying like I'm a princess of Jahad? Like, I don't think there's just 14 of them. I think there's a lot of them. It just matters on like the stack of how strong they are. Like, there's 14.
True.
Like, there's 14 weapons, but there's not a princess to every weapon. So I think there's a whole. I don't have the camera on me, but I think there's a whole lot of princesses in general. Like, probably more than most people can count. Like, I would say in the hundreds, in a sense. It just depends on the power within them. I just don't think it's like a limited number.
I don't know where I pulled that out of. I thought it was like they were like assigned a weapon or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
I guess what I'm getting at is that with the whole Adori thing, is there something to be said that she is like, the first princess? Is she like the most touted? Is she the most worthy, maybe in Jahad's eye? Like, she's the, like the commander in chief might just be like, that might be, in terms of Jahad's military at least, the person he trusts the most. And so maybe
I think she's the strongest, because if I'm not mistaken, and this isn't really a spoiler because it's on the rankings, like who's ranked where in terms of power scaling and all that kind of stuff. She's ranked 7.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Joe said that.
Yeah.
So I would assume that's the strongest princess, because now we're talking about like family heads, you know what I mean? Like, are in the mix there. I'm pretty sure I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure she is the strongest princess in terms of, I guess, fighting ability. And it seems to be implied just by how her raw talent has manifested, in the sense that she was able to beat a ranker as a regular, even though she was class A. But that was the whole thing with Bomb being like, he's C, get wrecked.
She's 7. That would put her,
I think she's
ahead of some of the family heads, no? Because I would have.
Yeah. I think somebody said Gustang's like 13 or something.
If there's 10 heads, that files out 1 through 10.
But she's a savage.
Whoops. That means that she is not only a strong fighter, but she's. I mean, I guess fair enough. Jahad doesn't pick anybody but the best, but like, she could take on some of the family heads, which is kind of. So then I guess that's where it's like, did the princesses of Jahad as a position or whatever like stem from her? You know what I mean? Like, did it? I don't know. I
think she was just personally, just to also answer the question here, my thoughts on her little impression. I think that if Garam's story adds up in terms of how Jahad skewed this whole thing to really just have them all killing each other or whatever to like get the best of the best, I think Adori is like Jahad struck gold on that one, where it's like, yes, finally this chick is like insane, like awesome. Well, and then now she's in, maybe he said it exactly like that too, but it's like, you know, and Adori seems to be so devout to the cause too, which is really the kicker, that it's like she at least from my perception, a little bit we got from her so far, I think she genuinely believes in this whole thing, where it's like, I will, you know, like I am here to serve Jahad. I will be the best. And being that she's so freaking talented, it's definitely, you know, put her to the top of the crop.
Well, that was a great implication because my thought was the same as yours in terms of why isn't she trying to collect all the 13-month series? So I wonder what her relationship is with Jahad, because obviously it's a failed, you know, Easter egg hunt where you collect them all. It's not going to amount to anything. You see what happens when you try to ignite 2 of them or use 2 of them. So it's a failsafe that Jahad has, and it seems like this girl isn't that interested in him, although we haven't met her. So, you know, we don't know. She could be obsessed with them, but if she is this powerful, you can't tell me that she doesn't have a lot of them. And it's assumed that no princess really has more than 2 or 3, you know, so it's not like she has a stockpile. So why isn't she very interested in them? Does she like have a talk with Jahad and he kind of like laid it out a little bit where it's like, you know, these aren't necessarily all that's chalked up to be, but you know, you're my like number 1. So like you kind of know a little bit of this information. Like I wonder how close their relationship is, if she knows about the implications of the 13-month series weapons or maybe doesn't. And it's just Jahad just doing whatever the hell he wants because he just has no respect for anybody. But it is interesting how it's like her name isn't revolving around these weapons that are like touted to be the pride and joy of being a princess and obtaining them.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but that is just an interesting, you know, tidbit.
That's a good point, though, because I kind of forgot, even though I just said it, where it's like the number 1 goal would always be get all the 13 months, and it seemed that being as strong as she is, that shouldn't have been too much of a problem for her. Maybe a wee problem, but she'd have more than 2, right? Oh, you know, that would be
we're
the
actively seeking them.
Assumption. Yeah, we're actively seeking them, which she could be, but we just never really got that info. Exactly. So to be fair, but she just seems to be like Jahad seems to be pretty lucky to have this chick on his squad. I guess my point is that I don't think that she's doing some like scheming, conniving thing, because we've seen a lot of princesses actually. Almost every damn princess that we've run into has been like, I'm not really about the whole Jahad thing. Like, honestly, it's by name, but like, I got my own thing going. Like, I mean, Yuri's an obvious one, but like, Dorsey's in love with the guy that's going to kill him. You know, we got Elaine, who is there for like the family, but then, you know, well, she wasn't like a princess, but you get my point. Like, rejected there. We get Maschenny, who's just like, she's doing her own thing, and it seems like that she's like, okay, I'll respect Jahad for his power, but like, I got my own thing going, etc. It seemed like a lot of them haven't been like incredibly loyal to the Jahad name. So I think Adori is different. I think she is like one of the princesses where it's like Jahad looks and it's like that's the poster girl for what princesses are supposed to look like right now. Just because it seemed weird for somebody that was like kind of trying to stab Jahad in the back or whatever to be like, oh, your orders will do all 3. You know what I mean? It's like, damn, girl.
She has to know. I think she has to have had an actual conversation with Jahad, and she has to know the truth about the weapons, because something about a character like this, and again, you know, most of this is speculation, so fair enough. If she is like this die-hard Jahad soldier, and she didn't know the truth about these weapons, I feel like she'd be bending over almost backwards to try and get these weapons. If she was, you know, a princess or a shining example of these princesses, why the fuck not? So the only thing I can think of is the reason that she wouldn't be going after them is because she knows the secret, and maybe Jahad has tasked her with making sure the princesses are always still fighting over the weapons. But obviously she's never going to like go after them herself because she knows what will happen. But she, again, as Jahad's commander-in-chief, is in charge of keeping all the other princesses in line by being like, hey, one of you could be up here with us if you get, you know, all of these weapons. Yeah, because if she doesn't know, I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't she be going after?
Yeah, that's my exact thought. Like, why? Like, there has to be some information.
I don't know.
They definitely have brunch. He's like, look, Dory, about these weapons, yeah, they're kind of rigged. Like, super like, devil.
She's over tea.
Curse, yeah, rigged. So don't touch them, or more than 2. But make sure all the other girls are fighting, like, hilariously so over all of them forever. And she's like...
Like, you would need such a blinding amount of, like, respect to hear orders like that, where it's like, oh, you know what, like, you've been kind of raised for as a princess, like, to be your pride and joy? Yeah, that's all a lie,
true.
so just follow with it. Like, to have that blinding obedience to someone, like, that is what can be scary if she
Respect
knows this
or
information.
fear.
Respect.
She
or
could
fear.
be afraid of him. I mean,
She
you know,
could be
she
afraid.
is number
Could be.
7, but I'm assuming Jahad is number 1, and 7 and 1.
100%.
I think it's enough of a gap where Jahad would probably still stomp her face.
I think it's a respect thing, if I had to guess, with her enthusiasm to complete the 3 orders when they were given. When Jahad is like, I'm technically giving you a choice to do one. She's
Yeah.
like, we'll do all 3. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you could be afraid and want to do that, but it seems like, you know, you're risking a lot of your own skin, where it's like, that seems to be going a bit overboard in the fact that those tasks are hard as hell to complete, just one and of themselves.
And assigned to people to do, so you're
Yeah,
going out
yeah.
of your way to say that.
Yeah,
Like,
it seems
yes,
like you almost
I-
want to get like, look, I've
Yeah.
done this other thing for you.
yeah, but I guess that could be like there's a fear of her being seen as useless. Right. So
Okay.
if everybody else is
Could
like,
be.
yeah, I'll pick one. She's like, oh, okay, I'll do all 3. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, that one's clearly more useful than the others. So it's like, you know,
Yeah, I guess you could frame it that way
Possible.
too. That's fair. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question here.
shoot.
It's by Sad Sparkles. Again, so thank you very much for the question. Sad Sparkles asks, what do you think about the nest? I mean, there's a floating stone in which time stands still so you don't get older. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Bomb and his hidden past since he's old. Oh, okay. Also, Jahad's been keeping some valuable things in there that got even Maschenny interested. So could there be some other reason that the fighting is taking place there, besides the fact that it's nearly impossible to enter it? Just wanted you to talk a bit about the world building and its implications in the future, since you're almost caught up now. And apparently there's a picture on Discord that goes along with this. I'm
it's
assuming
literally just the treasure chest,
right?
yeah.
The treasure chest blah, 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 thing.
Yeah.
So now that it's not needed anymore, my father asked head of the Lo Po Bia family to use it as a storeroom to hold onto his things he wants. He never told anyone on the outside what's in there, but there's probably a lot of stuff we can't even begin to imagine. I'm more interested in this.
I wonder, I mean, they, so I didn't mean to
You're good.
jump in front of it, but I guess because I think Miss Cheney makes a specific comment when she's like, that's where we're going to be keeping Jin Sung Ha, because I could, you know, use him as a bargaining chip when it comes time to commune with the Ha family or whatever. I wonder if the implication with this thing being here and this fight being here is essentially Jahad is going to be like, all right, everybody that's working, that's out here fighting us right now, kill all the ones that are useless, but the ones that are useful, lock them up in here, because may never know. I may want to, you know, I may want this person's X ability or thing, or maybe I can interrogate and turn this person, you know, whatever. But I think it might be a way to sort of cut his losses in terms of like picking out the, you know, the diamonds in the rough, so to speak, here, of like anybody who's just sort of here to fight and doesn't really stand out to him. It's like, get rid of them. But the ones that aren't, you know, that are, let's say, on Jin Sung Ha level of valuable, you know, maybe he's having the fight here because it's like, cool, they're already here. Like, just beat him, knock him out, and toss him in the, you know, room or, you know, chest or whatever.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. The nest in and of itself, the conception of it, the idea of the nest is kind of sweet, that time literally stands still, I guess, right?
Not that time is a huge factor in the tower to begin with.
Fair.
But
Yeah,
it is
I'm
pretty
thinking of
cool.
this in like human terms.
Yeah, yeah.
That's insane, you know, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, right, yeah, because time stands still. Okay. You don't get older, like, that's kind of insane. You just like
Oh.
walk into the building and it's like, I'm chill here for a little while. You know what I mean? Walk out,
Pretty
you're
dope.
totally fine, like hyperbolic chamber crap. That's pretty insane. I think that's
Wait,
really
so
cool.
Does that mean you could be immortal if you just lived there?
I bet you could die, like if somebody killed you, but like you wouldn't die of like old age.
Sure,
Yeah.
fair enough. You could be immortal, like you wouldn't die naturally. Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that seems to be the case. So I
kinda
could
dope.
be, I'm 26. I could walk in there, chill in there for 25 years. I come out, I'm still 26, like the same day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's pretty dope. You know what I mean? Just go in there, like, you know,
Shit,
chill.
you could, like
They-
live a whole life. In there.
yeah,
And
they
then
got like
come
a
out and it's
dude. They got like a gym and a library in there, or whatever, or you know, whatever's going on. Their whole
Dude, they got like the reverse. Like I go in there and just bam, straight to the grave, dog. Like you're done. No, I'm kidding.
Gavin just goes in there and immediately dies. This was a lie.
and I'm out.
Yeah, can you imagine somebody just goes in there to sleep like the whole time just so they
Oh,
can
yeah.
excuse sleeping?
What's his name? Laurel.
Oh,
Yeah. He's like, I don't age here.
bro, sleep for eternity. Yo,
You just sleep. Forever,
That means
bro.
you're dead, Gavin.
again, I'm saying that's a good. Like,
Okay.
think of that, sleeping forever.
Yeah, it's called being dead, like I said. So
Although
think
that
about
would
being
really
dead.
suck if you have like a really bad nightmare and you can't escape that. So you better hope that you're having good dreams. And yeah, if not, you're Goodbye.
You're wild. Yeah, Jahad's been keeping valuable stuff in there. Maschenny's interested. I mean, that'd be the place to keep it. This is basically like the Fort Knox of, think of the most impenetrable place. It's here. I am curious as to why that isn't on a higher floor. I always find that interesting, and sometimes I feel like I guess it's for a narrative thing, just because it's like, well, bomb's here, so we gotta this is where it is. But that always made me laugh because I'm like, okay, if you really wanted to hide this, and you put it higher, that there are that many less people that even have the ability to try and attack you because they got to even get up there to begin with. So I don't know. That's just kind of a side thing.
It's kind of weird with this story because of Bam and stuff where it's again, Bam's party are such an abnormal case, just by their existence, because normal people, make no mistake, would have died before getting on the Hell Train.
True.
They would not be here. This, I think the implication is that Jahad is, because if you think about the hidden floor, Jahad is so confident in himself and his forces and the system or society that he set up here that no normal person would be able to figure any of this stuff out. They even say that most people don't know this thing is here or exists, but it's the people who do, again, even if they do, it's okay, cool, go get up to floor 52 then and go get that thing. No, they're not going to do that. Bam and his party are a different case because by definition, they are able to get into places or be places that no normal person can. But I think I do honestly think that Jahad is just I was kind of planning for everybody else, not Bam.
Well, honestly, I'm gonna take the more surface level approach, and I'm gonna say that this stone originated on this floor, and it probably isn't as easy as let me just pick up this stone and bring it up.
That's fair.
They came across it, and if it's a stone that literally just stops time and everything is I don't think that's something you're let me just take it up to the hundreds or whatever floor. It's kind of there.
No,
so
I actually think that might be the best explanation in the sense that the question asks us to go in on the world building. Yeah. So I sometimes have to remember that before Jahad came and kind of modernized everything, that this was a place with these weird administrators that turn into big blobs of goo and then spit things out and give people powers and contracts, and there were giant flaming elephants going around, and this was a normal thing happening. So it's not really out of the realm of possibility that there's a random stone in space that stops time. So, and it just happens to be there, and it's we gotta move this thing, and it's we can't, and it's okay, we're setting up shop here, that's what we're doing. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
Plus I feel it'd be weird if Jahad was all right, everything that's dope and valuable, I want it on my floor. It's wow, if you get up there, you're set, bro. If you get up there and beat Jahad, you get everything. It's maybe spread that shit out a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, the implication is that no one, like you said, is an incredibly abnormal case. There aren't supposed to be whatever. But I also find that funny, right? Because that you're listen, there's no way it's an it's Jahad, Bomb and them, they're an abnormal case. It's yeah, but did Jahad never expect an abnormal case? The fact that there's an abnormal case means that it can be penetrated. You know what I mean? It's you're expecting things to go in the way they always have.
Checks out also in the sense that Jahad, I mean, maybe we don't really know, to be fair, did know of Bam's existence before he met him on the hidden floor. So then it's okay, but you did know that this kid had the potential, because that's the other thing that's really big with Bomb is a lot of people are oh, this kid doesn't seem innately strong, but you give him enough time, and I feel he could really fuck some shit up. And it's okay, if you have a feeling though, Jahad, maybe we bump that thing up a couple.
Well, to be fair, he thought he killed him when he's a kid, because when he comes down to the hidden floor, he's oh, I thought I killed you. He says to him, the big version of Jahad.
Right, but then I'm if this dog can see fate though, he must have known that didn't work.
I think that's the play on the story, right? To get into it a little deeper, is that Bomb is this antithesis to fate, right? That Bomb being an irregular and through these weird circumstances seems to defy it. A lot of the witches can't see his path and stuff that. And it's Jahad sees fate, but Bomb almost sidesteps that.
Okay. Well, so I guess that's the thing then. If he killed Bomb and thought he killed Bomb and then didn't see, he was Bomb's dead.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's the only thing. That's the 1% I would have to worry about. The 99, I could fuck with anybody.
Yeah,
so it's put it on floor 52, and then he gets to the hidden floor, and he's fuck, this nigga's alive. Bro. I got this valuable thing on floor 50. This one on 75. Fuck, he's
we don't have time to move everything. We just gotta fight.
Kill him all.
No, that's fair. That's fair. To answer the second part of the question here, what do you think he's hiding? Was that even a part of the question? Or did I just make that up?
I think you just
so there could be another reason. Oh, also Jahad's been keeping some valuable things there that even Maschenny's interested in. So could there be some other reason that the fighting's taking place there besides the fact that it's nearly impossible to enter? Yeah. I think that it's not just like Jahad's like, dude, I hid these really cool weapons there. Like, and if you get them, you'll get a major upgrade. Like, this isn't like a dungeon raid where we come out with like sweet loot, where it could be. I do think there's probably some of that in there, but I actually think there are probably more info bomb secrets, right? Like, open with the key, Aaron Yeager's basement type thing.
Or
and it's like
tickets
that,
understanding Jahad and his empire more. Like
I
why
think
he did
that's what it is personally. Like maybe some hidden artifacts that aren't supposed to surface, or some old diaries, old yearbook. No, yeah. But like some sort of thing that enlightens us a little bit more about who Jahad is and things that he obviously doesn't want people knowing about himself. He's kind of off the grid a little when it comes to that. So that's my prediction. Because I feel like if anything, Jahad is way more concerned with that than concerned with like, damn it, that guy found the bazooka in there. Like, you know what I mean? Because Jahad will just go down and flick him in the head and he'll explode.
Yeah,
like he doesn't
that's
give
true.
a shit, right?
And
He's
also,
that
if there was a
powerful.
weapon, like just a straight weapon that could rival Jahad, like that shit's definitely up on floor
Yeah, that's
134.
behind him. Because it's like, you're going to kill me to get it. And then at that point, I'm already dead.
But
It's
like his diary. He's like, I don't care. Throw it on floor fucking 50. Put it behind a wall or something. Nobody's going to touch that shit.
Yeah. I think that's what, I think that it's like, and I think that for
makes
narrative purposes, it'll be cool too. Like the further up we go, we get a little bit more information on Jahad, like each time. Each time we like make some major milestone achievement, it's like, ooh, we got the story with Garam. Then we went to the hidden floor and we saw young Jahad, and then him down there, and we got this weird, like, ominous thing where it's like, I'm trying to control fate. And then, like, we get here, and it's like a little bit more we find out about Jahad.
Yeah.
And so by the time we get to Jahad, there might be a different perspective, or there might be all these things that we think form together, and then that's my thing. I'm like,
I think it would also be pretty cool if, like, because the last floor that we were on, which was the Wall of Peaceful Coexistence, was all about those heroes who were trapped there, and we learned about like a little bit about like the War of Genesis through them and stuff. If like from here onward, these floors are going to slowly start opening up to the existence and the way the tower used to be and was before Jahad's empire took over. So like floor 50 and 51, we have like the floor of coexistence. We learned that there was a war. We learned about Genesis, these heroes who are locked behind this war. It's like each of these floors is going to have a piece of the tower's history and past contained, behind it, under it, in some sort of lock and key situation. And it's like, as we go up each floor, we're going to learn exactly how the tower went from where it used to be to what it is now.
yeah.
That could be cool.
Any other thoughts on this one?
Wonder if there's like info about Arlene specifically in there.
That's what I was thinking.
Because like whether it's like pictures or like some sort of information. That's my other thought.
Jahad Spank Bank. He just has like
Dude, I literally
all over the wall of her,
I
just like in a bikini, and it's like this is one time we traveled to Spain. You know
Or
what I
his
mean?
diary
And
is
it's
like-
her with V, but he has V
Or
cut
his
out.
diary, it is his diary, but it's like the tower, day 51. Arlene said hi to me. Damn. It's like,
I was thinking, Deadass has like a whole bunch of Playboy magazines in there, and they're all like the princess edition, and that's what started his daddy issues and creating all the princesses of Jahad, because that was his favorite Playboy or whatever magazine.
but it's like all the princesses just have Arlene's face like put on. It's like they're all different girls, but it's just Arlene.
That's it, dude. It's a whole room there, and then Bomb's gonna go there, and it's really awkward because it's basically his mother. You know what I mean?
He like walks in, he's like, wow, this girl's really hot. Who is it? Who is she? And they're like, Arlene, your mother. And he's like, oh no. He's like, Mommy!
And Bam's gonna be like, oh no, and Sheep's gonna be like, oh. Like, damn, bro, that's your mom, not mine.
Sorry, Mom. Just takes a couple before he runs out.
Look, that fight was stressful, okay? I'll see you in 5 minutes.
I need a loving memory of her.
Classic Shibuzu. Anyway, last question, Gavin. Take it away, my friend.
Oh, it's on me?
Yeah, fuck it.
Oh, and it's by Simone, mate. Thank you for the final question of the day. Much appreciated. What are your thoughts on Maschenny's goal in the whole war? My thoughts is that she is she's a tad cray-cray. And I don't know. She's such a wild card where you'd kind of hope that, because I honestly, Isaiah can explain it better than I can, but it's weird because you never know her mindset in terms of these things, where it's like you think that she is on the side of our guys in terms of betraying Jahad, not following everything that he has to say, and she has her own side mission, and then like she oddly aligns in some spots, and then you kind of pick at it and you're like, oh well, I can see where she gets this edge off of the decision that's made. I see where she gets this edge, for example, with the whole getting Jin Sung and that whole stipulation behind it. And it's like, oh, okay, like, you didn't necessarily want to take him, but now that he is acquired, it could be used in this situation to get the X place that whatever Jahad's hiding. And it's like, it's obvious that she is almost playing like these manipulative games that plays into, you know, her greater goal and whatever ultimatum she has behind the scenes. It's just really finding out what they are and like who are her allies. And I really think she's just that lone wolf where it's just like, I don't care, I'm gonna just do my own thing, and you know, that's that. So yeah, I think she's a tag cray cray. Yeah, we need Yuri to kind of smack her into place and just become Bam's
If
little
she
friend,
can.
and then Bam. Yeah, no,
think
she
that-
definitely can, because we know that they don't have a good relationship to begin with,
Yeah.
and that they don't get into arguments quite often. And I feel like that does play into Maschenny's mindset and Yuri's, because they're exact opposites. Yuri supports Bam from the start, always has it out, you know, blah blah blah, and then you get Maschenny, who is seemingly the opposite, but might have similar intentions or desires, but doesn't put that on the forefront and just schemes in the background to, you know, try to get whatever she wants. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, these coons are whacked in the head, bro. I mean, like she. I'm just speaking the
Doing
truth.
a lot of generalizing right there.
I'm
Relax.
listen, I'm just saying. No, it's not all of them, but I mean, we do like a lot of the coons have this like there's this wild thing where it's like I just manipulated that guy and his whole family died, but that's okay, you know. And it's like, I do think you hit it on the head before though, and I actually do think chaotic neutral is probably the best way I would also describe Maschenny Jahad. That she wants there to be an absolute bloodbath. I think that everything that she's doing is to have these forces just smash into each other and these waves to crash. And like, she has all these profound speeches where she's just talking about shaking shit up. Like, that's what she wants to do, literally. I don't know if she has some sort of big brain plan where she's going to be on the top of it when it's all done. And it's like, I need to shake things up because that's the only way to insert X thing that I want. I guess everyone always has a hidden selfish motive in some way, shape, or form. So there could be a little bit of that, but I don't know if beyond that, it's just, I just want things different because I'm quite frankly bored. This has been going on for too long. I want heads to roll. I don't really care who wins in the end. I just want there to be excitement and a thrill in my life. I don't know, just based off of the speeches she's given and all the monologues she's had and the talks, that seems to be kind of the thing, you know? Even her hidden floor self, her data self, she's just like, God, I just always wanted to fight you. You know what I mean? To Jahad and all that kind of thing. She seems to be, you know, a little, you know, a little cray-cray in that way, like Gavin was saying. And I think that just kind of manifested itself even more as she got a little older here. Boredom's a hell of a thing. It can make you cause world wars, I guess, if you're Miss Cheney, but I don't know. I think her goal is literally just to like stir shit up and make things different in some way, shape, or form. Whether she wants to insert herself or have some other goal to like within the power vacuum be the one to slip in there is a different story. I think that her being a coon, she probably has something like that going on. There's like a bigger brain thing beyond the just like I'm whacked and I want people to just start killing each other. So what that is specifically, I don't know. But right now, I'm like, you know, she's kind of on thin ice because she's kind of being a bitch throughout all this. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not really getting answers, and we got 10 chapters left. So I'm like, thinking to myself, I remember,
Second, sweetheart.
literally, I'm like, I need like a thorough explanation in the next 10 chapters, or I'm not gonna like you. I remember we were doing some sort of collab stream or something, and somebody was saying that Milios. That was his waifu, like Tower God waifu, was Miss Cheney or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that, I'm like, oh, okay, like we just met her. And I'm like, she must like, there must be something like later on that really makes it. And now we're here and like that rings in my head, that thought again. And I'm like, Milios, what did we see? Like, what am I missing? Was it just like, you just like the, you know,
I feel like Miss Cheney is like that girl, like she's the last girl you date in college or like in your 20s before you're like, all right, I'm done. I'm not like some young rascal. Like, I need to settle down and find something a little more structured, a little more. Because she's that girl that's like always trying to do some like really weird shit. And I don't mean like just like but I mean like her idea of a fun date is like lighting people's cars on fire. And you're like, and it's like, but she's like an actual 15 out of 10. So you're like, and like, let's put it this way. If that's the like, I get it, Millie. I get it.
yeah.
Because as much as I'm like, Miss Cheney, you crazy evil bitch. I'm like, damn. I was going to a room with you. It's over, bro. It's over. I'm doing some shameful shit. But I think Miss Jenny's also weird because this story I feel like has conditioned me to never look at anything for at face value anymore. And so every single time Miss Jenny gives me like another reason to be like, oh, you bitch, and just write her off as that, I'm like, there's got to be more to you than that. I'm like, there's just a little, you're playing this role here just a little too well for me to be like, you've got to be just some crazy villain. It's like, what is it? Yeah. And so then the question is like, okay, what is it you want? What, whether it's to ally with a certain person, a certain side, get like, what is it you want out of this? And why are you willing to go to these measures specifically? Because again, if we're to derive from a conversation with Jin Sung, even if her goals align with what somebody like Jin Sung wants, why go the route of a bloodbath to get it when there are alternate paths? Do you just not believe that those are as effective paths to get what you want? Is it purely a character personality thing? You just literally prefer to go down the bloodiest path possible? I don't know, but I just every time like I mentioned before in one of the other questions about Khun AA, these Khuns do default to like, I think it could also be, these Khuns definitely default to this tactic of like, well, I'm just going to pull everybody's strings. Like, that's how I'll get what I want. From the understanding, like, that's how they're all raised. That family is a political war mind or, battlefield from the day you're born. So I understand if that's if getting into the situation, that's where that Miss Chenny's mindset comes from, is that she just defaults to being like, okay, this thing I want, instead of going here and maybe asking this person and trusting that they'll like, no, I'll just go around them, do X, Y, and Z, get them to think I'm trying to do this when really I'm just like, that's the way that they operate. That's the default that they go to. But that default doesn't always necessarily involve like combat or fighting, or again, this the way that she refers to like spilling blood, right? Even Khun, who like is no stranger to going behind people's backs or using manipulative tactics, is not always going out with the intent to kill as many people as possible. So that seems very specific. That seems very Miss Chenny. And like you said, from her data self version, we can infer that didn't just spring up when she became a princess. That's always been inside of her to some degree. This like animalistic warrior that like just gets a literal thrill out of combat and spilling blood. So it's like, but again, I hesitate to just write her off as this crazy, love blood for blood, because she's got those Khun genes, and like it or not, those come with a specific set of skills in terms of intelligence and strategic outlooks of people and battlefields. And so like it's a very dangerous grouping of things to have in a character, right? Where it's like they are incredibly resourceful, incredibly manipulative, incredibly tactful, and can use strategy like ridiculously well, and love to kill people. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like that. I feel like you can't lean into any one of those things too much though, because then it kind of like ruins the character. But then I'm like, what do you want? What do you want?
What do you want from me?
Yeah.
What do you want from me? Anyway, does anyone have anything else they'd like to add on this question in particular?
Bam. I love that Bam and Khun have matching outfits.
And I love that last panel of them kissing. Oh,
I agree.
All right. Actually, Hwaryun and Bomb had matching outfits. Thank you very much.
yeah, but were they kissing Ian? No.
No. I mean, like, not as in, like, they're both wearing white and red, but the Khun's outfit is literally the inverse of Bam's, just in blue.
Yeah, because they're both males. That's how they had to rock that.
Because they're both married, Ian. Starts with an M. I understand it's confusing.
Right.
It's okay.
Khun's cheating on Bomb with White right now. That's what's happening.
Look, White don't love no nigga but himself. So let's not act like White is dating anybody.
I know. Khun's getting
other than
used.
his mirror.
It's a shame. Damn. Anyway, we're going to end the discussion there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you guys are smashing like, commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of our discussion, the questions posed, our answers to them, etc.? Curious to read them. Also, make sure you guys are hitting the notification bell and subscribing to the channel if you're new here or if you haven't already. And if you made it to the end of this video and me saying this, I'm going to hope that you are at this point. And if not, it takes you 2 seconds. Just do it. Also, again, description down below. You can refer to all of our necessary links to support the show, whether it be our Discord, which you definitely want to hop in on, our AOA Reacts channel to catch the live read-through, our social media, our audio-only platforms if you want to listen to the show on the go. If you want to hit us up on Patreon too to earn exclusive benefits to the show while also supporting us, really a win-win there, among many other things as well. So definitely go check that out. Does anyone have a question for the comment of the day?
What is the name of Jahad's commander-in-chief?
What's the name of Jahad's commander-in-chief? Answer in the comments down below, and then comment your thoughts, and we might just shout you out on our next TOG discussion. Also, big shout-out to our patrons, especially our acolytes at Anime, Stoic, Miduit, and Nathan. We appreciate all of you from the bottom of our hearts, along with all of our patrons. Love you all. So, until next time, folks, though, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you all on the flip. Peace.
Peace.
Ninjas are samurais, blazing the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly. They like what you saying, Goma got more through the storylines. I tested your neck from the start, my hunters gon' come for your heart. I promise you'll land in my boulevard, left them in one piece, no